Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikhil and this is the chapter 4 part 2, the last part of the chapter 4. Let's continue. As a young boy, my educated dad encouraged me to find a safe job. My rich dad, on the other hand, encouraged me to begin acquiring assets that I loved. If you don't love it, you won't take care of it. I collect real estate simply because I love buildings and land. I love shopping for them. I could look at them all day long. When problems arise, the problems are not so bad that it changes my love for real estate. For people who hate real estate, they shouldn't buy it. I love stocks of small companies, especially startups. The reason is that I am an entrepreneur, not a corporate person. In my early years, I worked in large organizations such as Standard Oil of California, the US Marine Corps, the Xerox Corp. I enjoyed my time with those organizations and have fond memories. But I know deep down I am not a company man. I like starting companies, not running them. So my stock buys are usually of small companies, and sometimes I even start the company and take it public. Fortunes are made in new stock issues and I love the game. Many people are afraid of small cap companies and call them risky. And they are. But risk is always diminished if you love what the investment is, understand it, and know the game. With small companies, my investment strategy is to be out of the stock within a year. My real estate strategy, on the other hand, is to start small and keep trading the properties up for bigger properties and therefore delaying paying taxes on the gain. This allows the value to increase dramatically. I generally hold real estate less than 7 years. For years, even while I was with the Marine Corps and Xerox, I did what my rich dad recommended. I kept my daytime job, but I still minded my own business. I was active in my asset column. I traded real estate and small stocks. Rich Dad always stressed the importance of financial literacy. The better I was at understanding the accounting and cash management, the better I would be at analyzing investments and eventually starting and building my own company. I would not encourage anyone to start a company unless they really want to. Knowing what I know about running a company, I would not wish that task on anyone. Therefore, there are times when people cannot find employment, where starting a company is a solution for them. The odds are against success. 9 out of 10 companies fail in 5 years. Of those that survive the first 5 years, 9 out of every 10 of those eventually fail as well. So, only if you really have the desire to own your own company do I recommend it. Otherwise, keep your daytime job and mind your own business. When I say mind your own business, I mean to build and keep your asset column strong. Once a dollar goes into it, never let it come out. Think of it this way: once a dollar goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing about money is that it works 24 hours a day and can work for generations. Keep your daytime job, be a hard-working employee, but keep building that asset column. As your cash flow grows, you can buy some luxuries. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while the poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. The poor and the middle class often buy luxury items such as big houses, diamonds, furs, jewelries, or boats because they want to look rich. They look rich, but in reality, they just get deeper in debt or credit. The old money people, the long term rich, build their asset column first. Then, the income generated from the asset column bought their luxuries. The poor and middle class buy luxuries with their own sweat, blood, and children's inheritance. A true luxury is a reward for investing in and developing a real estate or is a real asset. For example, when my wife and I had extra money coming from our apartment houses, she went out and bought her Mercedes. It did not take any extra work or risk on her part because the apartment house bought the car. She did, however, have to wait for it for 4 years while the real estate investment portfolio grew and finally began showing off enough extra cash flow to pay for the car. But the luxury, the Mercedes, was a true reward because she had proved she knew how to grow her asset column. That car now means a lot to her than simply another pretty car. It means she used her financial intelligence to afford it. What those most people do is they impulsively go out and buy a new car or some other luxury on credit. They may feel bored and just want a new toy. Buying a luxury on credit often causes a person to sooner or later actually resent that luxury because the debt on the luxury becomes a financial burden. After you have taken the time and reinvested in and built your own business, you are now ready to add the magic touch. The biggest secret of the rich, the secret that puts the rich way ahead of the pack. The reward at the end of the road for diligently taking the time to mind your own business. Okay, the part 2 ends here. Now I will continue and start the new chapter, the chapter 5th, which is the history of taxes and the power of corporations. Okay, this is chapter 5, lesson 4, the history of taxes and the power of corporations. Mm, I don't know how many parts it is gonna take. I will name this the part 1, chapter 5, part 1. Let's continue. I remember in school being told the story of Robin Hood and his merry men. My school teacher thought it was a wonderful story of a romantic hero, a Kevin Costner type, who robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. My rich dad did not see Robin Hood as a hero. He called Robin Hood a crook. Robin Hood may be long gone, but his followers live on. How often I still hear people say, why don't the rich pay for it? Or the rich should pay more in taxes and give it to the poor. It is this idea of Robin Hood or taking from the rich to give to the poor that has caused the most pain for the poor and the middle class. The reason the middle class is so heavily taxed is because of the Robin Hood ideal. The real reality is that the rich are not taxed. It's the middle class who pays for the poor, especially the educated upper income middle class. It is the knowledge of the poor, of the legal structure of the corporation that really gives the rich a vast advantage over the poor and the middle class. Having two different fathers teaching me, one is a socialist and the other a capitalist, I quickly began to realize that the philosophy of the capitalist made more financial sense to me. It seemed to me that the socialists ultimately penalized themselves due to the lack of financial education. No matter what take from the rich crowd came up with, the rich always found a way to outsmart them. This is how taxes were eventually levied on the middle class. The rich outsmarted the intellectuals solely because they understood the power of money, a subject not taught in schools. How did the rich constant outsmart the intellectuals? Once the take from the rich tax was passed, cash started flowing into government coffers. Initially, people were happy. Money was handed out to government workers and the rich. It went to the government workers in the form of jobs and pensions. It went to the rich who have their factories receiving government contracts. The government became a large pool of money. But the problem was the fiscal management of that money. There really is no circulation. In other words, the government policy, if you were a government bureaucrat, was to avoid having excess money. If you failed to spend your allotted funding, you risked losing it in the next budget. You would certainly not recognize for being efficient. Business people, on the other hand, are rewarded for having excess money and are recognized for their efficiency. As the cycle of growing government spending continued, the demand for money increased and the tax the rich idea was now being adjusted to include lower income levels down to very people who voted it in, the poor and the middle class. True capitalists used their financial knowledge to simply find a way to escape. They headed back to the protection of the corporation. A corporation protects the rich, but what many people who have never formed a corporation do not know is that a corporation is not really a thing. A corporation is merely a file holder with some legal documents in it, sitting in some attorney's office registered with a state government agency. It's not a big building with the name of the corporation on it. It's not a factory or a group of people. A corporation is merely a legal document that creates a legal body without a soul. The wealth of a rich was once again protected. Once again, the use of corporations became popular. Once the permanent income laws were passed because the income tax rate of the corporations was less than the individual's income tax rates. In addition, as described earlier, certain expenses could be paid with pre-tax dollars within the corporations. This war between the haves and haves not has been going on for hundreds of years. It is the take from the rich crowd versus the rich. The battle is waged. Whenever and wherever laws are made, the battle will go on forever. The problem is the people who lose are ununiformed. The ones who get up every day and diligently go to work and pay taxes, if they only understood the way the rich play the game, they could play it too. Then they would be on their way to their own financial independence. This is why I cringe every time I hear a parent advise their children to go to school so they can find a safe, secure job. An employee with a safe, secure job without financial aptitude has no escape. Average Americans today work 5 or 6 months for the government before they make enough to cover their taxes. In my opinion, that is a long time. The harder you work, the more you pay the government. That is why I believe that the idea of take from the rich backfired the very people who voted in it. Every time people try to punish the rich don't simply okay sorry the rich don't simply comply, they react. They have the money, power, and intent to change things. They do not just sit there and voluntarily pay taxes. They search for ways to minimize the tax burden. They hire smart attorneys and accountants and pursue politicians and to change laws or create legal loopholes. They have the resources to effect change. The tax code of the United States also allows other ways to save on the taxes. Most of these vehicles are available to anyone, but it is the rich who usually look for them because they are minding their own business. For example, 1031 is a jargon for Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code, which allows a seller to delay paying taxes on a piece of real estate that is solid for capital gain through an exchange for more expensive piece of real estate. Real estate is one investment vehicle that allows such a great tax advantage. As long as you keep trading up in value, you will not be taxed on the gains until you liquidate. People who do not take advantage of these tax savings offered legally are missing a great opportunity to build their asset columns. The poor and middle class do not have the same resource. They sit there and let the government needles enter their arm and allow the blood donation to begin. Today, I am constantly shocked at the number of people who pay more taxes or take fewer deductions simply because they are afraid of the government. And I do not know how frightening and intimidating a government tax agent can be. I have had friends who had their businesses shut down and destroyed only to find out it was a mistake on the part of the government. I realize all that. But the price of working from January to mid May is a high price to pay for that intimidation. My poor dad fought back. My rich dad didn't either. He just played the game smarter. He did it through corporations, the biggest secret of the rich. Okay, I will end this part here and I will see you guys in the next video, the next audiobook. Thank you for listening.